Perfect Bliss. Yo, what's up? It's someone, and welcome back to today's report. Today's report is coming from RRoldanBR. When this happened, 2006, the substances used: Mimosa ophthalmocentra, Moclobemide, Cannabis, alcohol, and Chamomile, at a dose of 1 tablespoon of Mimosa and 75 milligrams Moclobemide. The route of administration, orally and smoked. Weight, 50 kilograms. For the prior experience, there were 2 Pharmahuasca brews before this, and the setting at a friend's house. Okay, so today we're introducing the substance Mimosa ophthalmocentra, a species of mimosa with a reportedly very high DMT content. And this substance was actually requested off the Discord. If you don't know, we post some polls on there for the next report sometimes. But this report itself is actually coming off the Patreon, one of the rare times you'll see me pull a video from there. The reason being is, this is the only report I could actually find with Mimosa ophthalmocentra in it. Turns out this is pretty obscure, as a lot of the mimosas can be. So with this report, you can get an idea of the content we have on there. Normally, I would like to introduce it alone so we can get a good idea of the effects by itself, but we gotta work with what we got. Unless I missed something online, right now, this is the only thing you'll find as far as subjective experience goes with it. But this report itself is a third in a trilogy of Pharmahuasca brew reports, and I can cover those other stories if you'd like. Traditionally, ayahuasca brew will contain Psychotria viridis with Banisteriopsis caapi. The caapi acts as an MAOI, which in turn activates the DMT-containing plant over the next 8 to 10 hours. Replacing the viridis with mimosa will achieve a similar result. But you can also replace the caapi with pharmaceutical MAOIs, which will also activate it. Pharmaceuticals will most likely offer a slightly different experience just based off their profile alone, but in terms of strength and exposure, it can be just the same, if not stronger, and more favorable. We'll talk about Jurema and Pharmahuasca a bit more after the report, but mainly we'll be focusing on Mimosa ophthalmocentra. I'm sure you'll enjoy this report, so without further ado, let's dive right into this. This report gives notice of a third experience involving a type of Pharmahuasca, an Afro-cyberdelic method, reference to Chico science and the cow zombie, in its most etymological meaning. It demands further explanation, but let's make first things first. Actually, I feel that a whole cycle has been initiated. About a month ago, I prepared 500 grams of mimosa root bark, a species known here in Brazil as Jurema vermelha, red Jurema or Mimosa ophthalmocentra. People believe this is the strongest of the mimosa species. I have no means to verify this. I need a good lab in order to make it. Anyway, I prepared it with alcohol, water, and lemons. The resultant 1,250 milliliters of the Vinho da Jurema, wine and Jurema, could serve around 100 persons with 1 strong shot each. As no trustable and affordable MAOI natural source was available at the same time, I moved my wheels to get some synthetic provision of it. Mocolobemide ended up as the best choice among them all, mainly for its quick metabolism and safety. The previous reports are named Wrathful Goddess and Ever-Expansive Spear. I had one tough night, a kind of personal Armageddon. The second experiment was much better, but yet very strong. Both of them took place with just one psychonaut, me. I learned the hard way, since the Jurema cults here in Brazil are not expanded throughout the country. Besides, this tech brew is at least a couple of times stronger and disciplined than regular ayahuasca. Note for the term Afro-cyberdelia, Afro brings the unified origin of human gender into play. Cyber shows that technology and science are accepted as the valid methods today, and delia is the suffix of psychedelia, or the discovery of inner truth, access to one's own most essential truth. Getting back to the main dish, this third experiment was indeed revealing and fruitful. I decided to accept the petitions from a couple of friends that wanted to drink the magical potion. I went to their house last Friday morning, which was just this holiday here. They were instructed to observe a typical MAOI preparation diet. Even though it wouldn't be necessary when using Mocolobemide, I find it useful to break the psychonauts' routines. There, another friend of ours, Dee, was willing just to help and watch, and not take active part in the sacred communion. As we were going to perform a real ritual, which I was about to coordinate, I entrusted him with Zelator grade. His tasks were just to help me control schedule, to answer the door if the bell rang, or to help clean the ground if someone's nausea came too quick before reaching the bathroom or backyard. He did all that very calmly and confidently. That's why I'm so thankful now. It's just about half an hour from my home to my friend's place. Lots of brugmansias in the path. Yet, differently from me, they live in a small city surrounded by some forest and hills, not much touched by urban settings. Near the British Old Village of Paranabiakaba, Indian word for the place where one can get a sight of the sea. A few days before, I pray that if there was something I cannot already comprehend very well on the experience, that at least it can bring spiritual comfort for my friends and I. In the beginning, I felt nothing would happen. Minutes after, it was like my being was touched by the Holy Spirit of all. Pan-generator. Sylvia, the couple's girl, brought some tangerines, bananas, soy sauce, the important chamomile tea, and other stuff. We ate some fruit, prepared the tea, and put a rectangular table in the middle of their most illuminated visiting room, with a good window and a hanging cloth curtain with rose flower patterns filtering just a little sunlight. Oh, by the way, on my way there, I chanted asking for the mist that was there to dissipate and for the sun to appear behind the clouds. Man, it really did. And Fiat Lux. Haha, amazing. Wally, the man in the house, allegedly is passing through some unemployment situation, but he's not moving himself too much. After the fruit, I gave each one their Mocolobemide pills, half of it, 75 milligrams. Sylvia, a very skinny and small gal, took just half of her half pill, thus a quarter of the whole tablet. I brought some paraphernalia for the seance. A maraca, single rattle, a whistle imitating a bird, a vajra and a ganthu, scepter and bell from the Vajrayana Buddhism, and some Tibetan medicinal incense from the Drikam Monastery in South India. I also brought into life some tokes, touches, traditional Jurema songs, chamadas, calling, traditional Unio de Vegetal songs, hinos, hymns, traditional Santo Daime chantings, and the Red Tara's mantra, Jetson Drolma. Please note that these, along with marvelous music composed by Philip Glass and performed in a CD by Wachi, an excellent Brazilian experimental group, were used from head to tail of the session. Practically no metaphysical terms were applied, since I've adapted all these songs and explained some of their simple but deep metaphorical meaning briefly prior to the consumption of the sacred brew. After eating the fruits and the pills, I went first to cleanse the rest of the house from bad vibrations, while people stood in their own feet, concentrating on their own strength to remain standing on this hard life. All these foci, poro of focus, again, have some kind of subliminal similarity, maybe on the verge of neurolinguistics. Do not confuse pure belief with religious faith. The order here is always to conclude, not to believe. People sat around the table where all the tools were arranged into a mandala pattern. I gave some last instructions about circumambulation and the whole picture of the experience, its cultural and personal implications, its rules to maintain a responsible use, and the proper way to behave under the heightened existence we'd experience. Wally lit a joint in cellulose transparent paper, which I never saw before. Very nice. Here comes one of the most interesting parts of this experiment. I brought a top tarot deck with me. See Aleister Crowley for reference. Each one picked a card among the 22 major arcana. It's important now to stress that Wally always called me the Pope of Transcendence, as I showed him LSD and shrooms in the middle of a great spot in Minas Gerais, an important Brazilian state, full of natural displays of beauty and power. People took the following cards. Wally and Dee took 2 cards each. Wally, 13, Death, and 16, Tower. Sylvia, 2, Priestess. Dee, 17, Star, and 1, Magus. Me, 5. Hierophant. No need to say, the cards taken were so precise, pointing to what would be then unveiled, that I was like stunned for this kind of intriguing, triggering coincidences. After all the mumble-jumble to establish a positive set, I served the Jurema's wine, just a small spoon for each, mixed with the digestive chamomile tea. I drank first, and then served each one separately. The taste this time was mild and gentle. Finishing my small cup was a little hard just by the end of it. I started singing the traditional songs, and then put the fantastic CD to play. The mood was just fine. I was feeling confident to guide these folks and support any course of action. Wally asked to make more tea, without the wine, and to go to the bathroom. To make a long story short, he ended up vomiting hard as hell. Think he ate too much fruit and didn't avoid alcohol the night before. Sylvia tried to help him, so I had to take the rattle, send her back to the room, and let him pass alone through his catharsis. I helped him with a hypnotic cleansing of the rattle, and then brought him back into the room, feeling much better. For about 10 or 15 minutes, I thought that nothing would happen, since Wally simply ejected all his portion. Oh, how wrong I was, for life's sake. Ha ha ha, I kinda saw Wally's digestive system and some small quantity of wine being absorbed. A sacred space really showed itself by clear and smooth visuals, in complete and coherent scenes and plot, and by open-eye visuals, like patterns of light and detailed drawings took the scene. The house began to look like the shiny palace lost in the jungle a long time ago. I could hear him breathe like never before. Laughs and smiles took form. My muscles relaxed but didn't become melting. I was so relaxed that most of the pains I was feeling in my back and shoulder disappeared, and I was able to squirm my body and take all my articulations into place, thus releasing air from them. My back got very straight and soft, maintaining my head up and my breath free and deep. I felt anointed, blessed, and consecrated by the most holy state in the universe. Energy flowed through my limbs as if I were a rising star. My emotions were so good that I think I could turn hell into heaven. No evil could strike upon me. The relaxation took us straight right as everybody had lots of pleasure sighs. The tactile sensations were so special that I had to touch all my body to relax it. There were moments I felt this was still a strong dose, but everything went so well, gently, and balanced. Many visions helped me to organize ideas for a novel I'm gonna write. I could send vibrations anywhere in the cosmos. What led me to think that Jesus is just a symbol for an enlightened person, as the term Buddha, Arjunas, Sanskrit, Arjun, Japanese. My next year plans all have strength to be realized within me. Wally and Sylvia told me in a low voice, "Man, I don't really have anything else to say," communicating that they were full of words a few minutes before, and that now these words had been washed by the striking and overwhelming blissfulness they were passing by. It was a session so blessed that I'm still feeling realized and peaceful. After centuries, an hour or so in our time computation, we began to recover our sense of immediate reality and understand better the proper motivation stated at the beginning of the session. May I avoid to do any evil and to be helpful to others get enlightened. May my heart and mind be cleansed of the illusions about life, and may the natural mind be restored. May this be auspicious to all beings in the universe. We did the final procedures to close this kind of ritual and began to change impressions. Then comes the most curious fact. Didi, the guy who just helped but did not share the Pharmahuasca, had his visions too. Impressive and strange visions, by the way. Let me explain better. The week between the second and third experiments, I had this vision explaining details on the Master, Anton of Flowers, a mental friend who guided me in the last Mimosa meditation. This midweek vision connected him with the RRoldanBR bee. RRoldan means round honey, and this species of bee is feared for its wrathful attacks and praised for its medicinal honey. Not only by the Census Society and hard work, but for its anatomy, this has been a special symbol. Searching this until then unknown to me bee on the web, I discovered that bees have eyes in the top of their heads. This resembles to me the famous eye of Shiva and the crown chakra, the channel for life to awaken us. But nobody knew this or even know this by now. What happened is that Dee saw with open eyes 3 Afro folks, one of them an Afro girl, the most beautiful, bearing black insect wings. He said dragonfly, not butterfly. He didn't know this or couldn't be aware of. He could have been subconsciously suggested to see bird wings, since 1 or 2 of the songs I chanted said things about Jurema and birds, but none of them mentioned insects, honey, or anything else of this. Very strange. For me, this could be a sign that something is beyond our now existing knowledge, something filled with love and wisdom. At the end, Wally recognized to himself and to me that the Jurema negra, black Jurema, is not something to play with. He thought he can go to a party after its effects, and that the experience cleaned his bad thoughts and lack of hope. I believe that the strong and fearful cards he took, the vomiting, I don't know, but it seems like a real catharsis directed from a superior teacher. Nobody else picked such purgative cards, and nobody else threw up, and he seems to be the most lost boy in that psychotic troupe. Hope that he tunes in with more positive behavior. That's all, folks. Thanks for reading it. May it be helpful to someone. Alright, that was a beautiful experience, and one that definitely shows that ophthalmocentra can be an ingredient in a Pharmahuasca brew, specifically in Jurema and as a Pharmahuasca brew. But let's take a closer look into Mimosa ophthalmocentra. So like most mimosas, this is located in Brazil. If you don't know, there's a ton of different mimosa species out there, over 500, and over 300 of them are in Brazil. Mimosa hostilis is one of the most common ones you may have heard of, and what makes ophthalmocentra even harder to come by is that the two can often get mixed up and misidentified due to having a similar appearance. Now reportedly, what makes ophthalmocentra different is its high DMT content. Now there's only been 1 study done on this, so the actual content may vary, but DMT levels may be as high as 1.6% of the total plant. When compared to hostilis, we can see that DMT content can vary, especially by location. There are some reports with DMT content being as low as 0.17%, while some reports of it in Mexico have found it being as high as 1 to 1.7%. I imagine the ophthalmocentra will also vary. But just based off this report, I wouldn't be surprised if the plant was that potent, especially considering it seems like they didn't have a strong dose. But alongside with this, in the same study, NMT and hordenine was found. NMT is commonly found along with other DMT-containing plants, but often it's at such a low level that it's unlikely to have a strong influence. Even then, with a proper dose, NMT may not even be very psychoactive at all. Hordenine shows not to be psychoactive, so we could assume the DMT's interaction with the MAOI is responsible for the effects. But outside of having a trip, ophthalmocentra shows to share many similarities with other mimosa species and their utilization. For example, it has been shown that ophthalmocentra, when extracted through decoction, it can work in a similar way to treat cough and bronchitis. Alongside this, it has also seen some practical usage, such as making the wood into weapons or using it as firewood. But outside of that, there really isn't much else out there on Mimosa ophthalmocentra. The tree itself can be strongly red, which is how it got the name Red Jurema. But like I said, it is pretty obscure, and it's likely not a ton of people have come into contact with it, let alone take part in a medicinal ritual with it. But let's talk about the traditional side of this a little bit and how it stands out from ayahuasca. So, Jurema is a common name to describe many things surrounding this tradition. It describes the mimosa species used, the mix itself, the tradition itself, and the Jurema cults that started it. It's thought that the original practice itself died off for some point until only recently did some pick up the practice again. We can see many themes of the ritual present within today's report, such as the various themes of music, the rattle is very common to use, smoking will normally be a part of it, and just the overall spiritual intentions. The biggest thing that sets a Jurema experience apart from ayahuasca, though, I'd say, is the ingredients. Now, ayahuasca can contain mimosa as an ingredient. It isn't the most common form, but it can and has been done many times. But what makes Jurema stand out from that traditionally is that it doesn't contain an MAOI like the Cappy. It's thought that Mimosa can act as an MAOI itself enough that a separate MAOI isn't needed. Because of this, the amount of activated DMT will be limited. But based off various reports, it is enough to cause a psychedelic experience. So while the main substance at play is DMT still, it's likely to be to a much lesser degree. But even then, it can still be a strong experience, especially with a ritualistic setting. Besides this, we also see alcohol being an ingredient. The original claim is that by turning this into a wine, the effects brought on will be stronger. Now technically, there wouldn't be a direct influence considering potency, but the added inebriation from the alcohol could theoretically make the experience stronger. But that's basically what Jurema is and how it differs from Aya. There's a few more cultural differences, but the experience is mainly driven by the mimosa with a touch of inebriation from alcohol. Smoking is common to be a part of the experience too. This will often include tobacco and our other smokable herbs, such as cannabis, which was used in this report. But the users in today's report took this a step further by technically making it into a Pharmahuasca mix, which I'm not sure if they knew if Jurema is active on its own, but adding an MAOI will be a surefire way to get an experience out of the Jurema. Mocolobemide is a common pharmaceutical MAOI that I plan to get into sometime soon. This and many other MAOIs can serve as an alternative replacement for the Cappy. Combining this with any DMT-containing plant, or just even DMT itself orally, should technically give you a Huasca experience. Oftentimes, this route is chosen due to not having access to the plant materials, which is partially true with this report. For the experience, the differences between the two are often subjective and can be hard to point down exactly. One common thing that is reported with Pharmahuasca is that often it will not cause as much nausea or as much of a body load, which this makes sense to a degree, especially if you're working with extracted DMT. Many of these plants can have some byproducts and can be heavy in fatty lipids, which will just cause the body to work harder to process. With pharmaceuticals, the only thing you really have to look out for is your DMT source. And another pro with Pharmahuasca that's reported is being able to dose it. This is highly beneficial to those who may be sensitive, and it allows for finding certain thresholds and desired doses. Other than that, many claim the theme and overall energy of the trip can be drastically different, and many think this is because it lacks the ritualistic setting. Today's report blended that, and I think we can see that even if it is Pharmahuasca, there is still strong spirituality to be found, and a ritual setting can still be applicable. But we're going to end it there for today. If you had Pharmahuasca, Jurema, or even ayahuasca, feel free to share some of your experience down below. If you want me to talk about more mimosa species, more Pharmahuasca, more DMT, whatever it may be, leave a comment telling me that. And besides that, we did just hit 20k recently. I'm working on this story time now, so just stay tuned. And we got a lot of cool stuff coming up in general, so I'm pretty excited. If you want to see more content like this, you already know, hit that like button and subscribe. Make sure to follow the socials and check out the Patreon. It's been someone that's no one, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.